When Allied soldiers stormed through the gates of Nazi concentration camps in 1945, they expected to find emaciated prisoners and heaps of corpses. What they didn't anticipate discovering were women, ordinary-looking women, who had committed extraordinary atrocities. Women who had once styled hair, changed bedpans, or posed for photographs had transformed into some of the most dreaded figures behind the barbed wire. By the spring of 1945, investigators were documenting a horrifying reality. Female guards with chilling reputations had operated inside these camps with shocking brutality. Many of these women entered the war as civilians: nurses, beauticians, fashion models, even homemakers. But as Nazi ideology tightened its grip across Germany, employment opportunities inside detention centers began attracting a disturbing new workforce. What drove these women to abandon all compassion? And why did courts decades ago decide that some deserved the ultimate punishment? Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. The path from ordinary citizen to convicted war criminal wasn't straight or simple. As the Nazi regime expanded its network of terror, SS Chief Heinrich Himmler authorized construction of specialized camps exclusively for female prisoners. These facilities grew rapidly as political opponents, resistance members, and anyone who spoke against the regime found themselves behind bars. In May 1939, Ravensbrück opened as the primary camp designed specifically for women. To operate this growing system, the SS actively recruited female guards. Some were forced into service against their will. Others volunteered, drawn by steady wages, career advancement prospects, and the chance to serve their Führer and nation. Why would anyone willingly step into such a role? The answer reveals something disturbing about human nature. Many future guards came directly from the League of German Maidens, the Nazi youth organization for teenage girls. This group systematically indoctrinated young women, transforming skeptical adolescents into devoted followers of National Socialism. The brainwashing continued as these women moved from youth meetings to camp duty. But as battlefield fortunes shifted against Germany, the SS faced a staffing crisis. Experienced guards were pulled from camps and sent to front lines. Desperate for replacements, authorities drafted women into service with minimal training, sometimes just weeks of instruction on how to terrorize inmates. These crash courses taught recruits one thing above all: how to break human spirits. Female guards learned methods for keeping prisoners in constant submission, how to select victims for punishment, and techniques for maximizing fear. Inside the camps, women officers controlled entire barracks blocks. They shot prisoners, orchestrated tortures, and presided over public executions and morning roll call yards. So why did post-war courts specifically send female guards to the gallows rather than simply imprisoning them? When Allied investigators combed through liberated camps, they uncovered overwhelming evidence. Female guards had participated in systematic beatings, starvation policies, prisoner abuses, and selections for gas chambers. Much of this proof came directly from survivors who had watched these women commit unspeakable acts. Witness after witness described guards whipping naked prisoners, kicking inmates until bones cracked, setting attack dogs on weakened captives, and pointing helpless victims toward death chambers. The testimony arrived almost immediately after liberation. In many cases, multiple survivors independently identified the same female guard performing identical cruelties. Prosecutors built cases using camp records, photographs, medical reports, and physical evidence collected from mass graves. Some guards became so notorious that prisoners remembered their faces decades later. Fear had seared those images into memory forever. Would society have judged them differently if they were men? Here's what shocked post-war society most. In the 1940s, Western nations still viewed women primarily as nurturing caregivers and devoted mothers. Exactly the image Nazi propaganda had promoted inside Germany. The regime wanted women producing children for Hitler's thousand-year Reich, not operating gas chambers. But labor shortages changed everything. When Allied nations learned that women had willingly participated in industrialized murder, the public reacted with horror. Female guards like Irma Grese attracted enormous media attention precisely because they shattered traditional expectations. Newspapers branded them sadistic monsters. The fact that these executioners wore women's uniforms became a recurring headline sensation. Society struggled to reconcile conventional femininity with the brutality uncovered inside camps. But gender offered no legal shield. Courts tried these women as criminals regardless of biology. And that's precisely why leniency never materialized. The most famous post-war proceeding remains the Belsen Trial, conducted by British military authorities in late 1945. This case focused on staff from Bergen-Belsen and Auschwitz. The most notorious female defendant stood just 22 years old. Survivors accused her of carrying a whip everywhere, beating prisoners randomly, shooting inmates for entertainment, and personally selecting victims for gas chamber extermination. Despite her youth, the evidence proved overwhelming. She was convicted and hanged in December 1945 alongside fellow guards Wanne Bormann and Elisabeth Volkenrath. What made this execution a legal milestone? It established that women could face capital punishment for war crimes, something courts had rarely considered before. Other trials followed across Europe. Several women received death sentences and faced public hangings before crowds exceeding 20,000 people in Poland. Authorities deliberately conducted these executions in public view to demonstrate accountability. The anger felt after liberation demanded visible punishment. Prosecutors argued that concentration camps represented a massive criminal enterprise involving persecution, forced labor, torture, and systematic murder. Any guard who knowingly participated, especially through direct abuse, deserved full criminal responsibility. In some cases, prosecutors successfully argued that willingly working inside camps demonstrated participation in mass murder because every staff member understood the facility's true purpose. When Allied troops entered camps like Bergen-Belsen, they discovered scenes words cannot fully describe. Thousands of unburied corpses lay rotting. Survivors resembling skeletons crawled between buildings. Disease flourished everywhere. Photographs and newsreel footage broadcast around the world created undeniable pressure for swift justice. The uniform didn't commit the crimes, the woman inside it did. Female guards captured directly at camps became visible targets of public fury. Ordinary people now saw for themselves what the system had produced. Some guards never reached trial at all. Liberated prisoners and angry soldiers beat them to death on the spot. Yet here's the nuance most history videos overlook. While some female guards faced execution by hanging, most did not. Thousands of women worked inside the concentration camp system. Only a small percentage received death sentences. Many served prison time instead. Others received surprisingly short sentences and walked free. Some escaped punishment entirely, particularly during Cold War decades when interest in prosecuting lower-ranking personnel faded dramatically. Courts varied wildly in their judgments. Immediate post-war trials tended toward severity. But later courts demanded increasingly precise evidence directly linking individual defendants to specific murders. This evidentiary standard proved difficult to satisfy years after the fact. The trials of female concentration camp guards established an enduring legal principle. Women could be held equally responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Gender offered no protection when evidence showed participation in atrocities. Mercy is measured by actions, not by biology. For survivors, these trials and executions represented something profoundly important: an attempt at justice after years of unimaginable suffering. Even so, many believe that numerous perpetrators, both male and female, escaped full punishment for their roles inside Nazi Germany's killing machine. How many more walked free than ever faced a judge? The story of female concentration camp guards forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Evil doesn't always wear a recognizable face. Sometimes it looks like the woman who once worked next door, who smiled at children, who seemed so perfectly ordinary, until placed in a system that rewarded cruelty and punished compassion. If this video made you think differently about history, like and subscribe to War Real History for more deep dives into the forgotten corners of the past.